I met Walter Hughes during a research trip through northern Georgia. It was late October 2023. His house sat quietly at the edge of a pine forest. But even from the gate, you could feel it. A smell, not of rot, not of death as we know it, but of something that had been dead for a long time on the inside. That house wasn't a home. It was a coffin. And Walter? He was the ghost inside it. The first thing I noticed, he never blinked. Not once during our conversation. His pale blue eyes stared through me, like he was watching something behind me, behind everything. That was when I knew. This man was still fighting a war that ended decades ago. He invited me in. The living room was cold, though the heater was on. It felt wrong, as if time had stopped inside these walls, and only Walter remained. Then he smiled, not a warm smile, not a smile you return, but the kind of smile that makes your skin crawl.
I keep the window open so I can hear her better.
His voice was calm, too calm.
The crying at 3:15 every night.
He looked straight at the window.
She cries in Vietnamese, and I understand every word.
His hands shook a little, but it wasn't fear. It was exhaustion. The kind of exhaustion that only comes when you've lived too long with something you can't explain and can't run from. At that moment, I knew I wasn't here for a simple interview. I was standing in the doorway of a nightmare, one that hadn't ended in the jungle, one that had followed him home. I learned that Walter Hughes was no ordinary soldier. He wasn't just infantry, he was a sniper, a government-issued ghost in the jungle, a man who hunted shadows and became one himself. He didn't talk about war like others did. No bravado, no medals on the wall, just numbers. 47, he said once. 47 confirmed kills. He remembered every single one, every face, not as trophies, but as weights on a chain that dragged behind him. Every day of his life. But there was one face, the 48th. The child, he whispered. She was the 48th. His voice cracked like old wood. We were ordered to shoot anything that moved in that zone. She was running.
I thought she was a Vietcong kid. We had orders, shoot anything that moved. But through the scope, I saw her crying, and still, I pulled the trigger. I didn't want them to think I was weak. The bullet tore through her skull. Blood and brains splattered all over a bamboo tree.
He looked down at his hands like they were stained with fresh blood. But then came the parts that never left him. When I got closer, she wasn't a fighter. She was just a girl. Maybe 8 years old. still clutching a straw doll in her hands. There was silence between us, the kind that presses against your ribs, the kind you can't breathe through. Walter didn't cry, not really, but his eyes said everything. He had killed many men, some armed, some not, but only one ghost had stayed, only one returned, and she would not let him forget. The first night she came back, Walter didn't wake up because of the rain. He woke up because of the sound. Like blood leaking from a wound that never healed. At first, he thought it was a pipe, a leak, something explainable. But the sound, it came from the window. He turned slowly and saw it. A dark, wet stain spreading across the wooden floor beneath the glass. Deep red, thick, fresh. He followed the stain with his eyes, and that's when he saw her. She was standing in the rain, but not touching the ground. Her feet hovered 1/2 meter above the grass, like she was hanging. From a rope he couldn't see. Her head tilted sharply to one side, her neck broken, and half her skull gone. Blood and brain matter still dripped from her head, landing on the ground below, one drop at a time, like a second heartbeat. But the worst part was her mouth. It was moving. Her lips were blue, cracked and frozen, but still whispering something in Vietnamese.
Why did you
Walter
shoot
couldn't
me?
look away. He felt like a child again, caught in the presence of something holy or cursed. He didn't understand the words. Not yet, but deep down, he already knew. This was not a dream, not a hallucination, not guilt. This was a haunting. From that night forward, Walter no longer needed to see her. He could hear her every night at exactly 3:15 a.m. A whisper came through the window, low, wet, like wind dragging words through blood. At first, the voice meant nothing, foreign syllables, a ghost language. But then, he started to understand, not because he learned Vietnamese, but because she wanted him to. Each night, the whispers grew louder, clearer.
Why did you shoot me? It hurts. I want to go home. Where's my mother? I will never forgive you.
Week by week, she came closer. The first week, she stood at the edge of the woods. The second, at the front yard. The third, beneath the window. And in the 4th week, Walter woke up to find 5 fingerprints on the glass. Blood, still wet, still warm. 5 little fingers from a hand that had no reason to still exist. He tried to tell himself it was a dream, a memory, PTSD, But the stains stayed, the smell grew stronger, and every night the whispers returned. She no longer needed his permission. She was already inside his mind, inside his guilt, inside the room, and every whisper cut deeper than the last. It didn't happen all at once. The change came slowly, like rot, spreading under wallpaper. Walter began to notice things, stains, dark red blotches on the walls, growing like maps. As if the house were bleeding from within, the air grew heavier, thicker, like the inside of a slaughterhouse. It reeked of rust and something far worse, old blood and slow decay. Each night brought something new, something that didn't belong in this world. One night, he found it on his pillow, a dry piece of brain tissue, shriveled, cracked like old leather. Another night, long black strands of hair wrapped tightly around the doorknob, still wet. Then came the footprints, tiny, bloody, leading from the window, all the way to the foot of his bed. And then they disappeared, right beneath the frame. That night, Walter crouched down and looked under the bed. What he saw still follows me into my dreams. Two black eyes stared back at him, but they weren't human. They were holes, deep, empty, and endless. Then a voice from the darkness below.
Do you remember my face, Uncle?
Walter never answered. He couldn't. His throat had sealed shut with fear. And still, the eyes watched, waiting. It arrived in the mail, no return address, just a plain white envelope. But Walter knew this wasn't from a person. The letter wasn't written in ink. It was written in blood, dried, brown, flaking at the edges. But the smell, still fresh, still metallic, still wrong. He opened it with trembling fingers and read, Uncle Walter, I've waited 53 years. Every night, I feel the pain again. The moment you pulled the trigger, my head exploded, my brain spilled out, but I never died, not fully. I want you to feel it too. The dying, slow, cold, and never ending. Tonight, I'll come inside. I'll sit on your bed and watch you sleep. I'll touch your face with my frozen fingers and whisper in your ear what my mother screamed when she found my body in the dirt. You will never rest.
I will whisper in your ear what my mother cried when she found my body. You will never rest.
Lynn.
Then there was a postscript, just 4 chilling words. I found your children. Walter dropped the letter, but the words stayed in his head, burned behind his eyes. That night he didn't sleep, not even for a second. That night, Walter sat in bed fully awake. No lights, no distractions, just him, his shotgun, and the window. The clock ticked slowly toward 3:15. And then it started. First, the sound. A scraping, delicate but deliberate, like fingernails on glass. Scratch, scratch, scratch. Then came the voice. Soft, childlike.
Uncle, open the window. I'm so cold.
Walter looked up. She was there, her face pressed against the glass, blood dripping from the shattered side of her skull. It smeared across the window like paint. Her eyes were gone. Only 2 black holes remained, deep as the jungle, cold as death.
You can't hide forever.
Then the window opened. By itself, the wind rushed in, carrying the scent of wet soil and old blood. The temperature dropped, like a morgue door had swung open, and she began to crawl through. Not walk, not float, crawl. Her limbs twisted unnaturally. Her body dragged across the floor. Her head hung low, still leaking. She didn't speak again, but she didn't have to. Her presence screamed. This was no longer Walter's home. It was hers. She reached the foot of Walter's bed and stopped. Her head still hung low, tilted at a broken angle. Blood and brain still oozing, still dripping, still fresh. She sat there, not moving, not blinking, just waiting. Then she whispered,
Do you remember when you shot me? Do you remember what I was doing?
Walter couldn't speak. His throat was tight, as if someone had gripped it shut. But she continued.
I was singing the song my mother taught me about the soldier going to fight.
And then she began to sing, a soft, trembling melody, broken, like it was being sung underwater. The soldier marches through the fields, with rifle on his back. I bring him flowers and wave goodbye. Her voice cracked midway, fell apart, and then she screamed.
Why did you shoot me? Why?
The walls trembled, the lights flickered, the blood on the floor boiled. Walter covered his ears, but the sound wasn't in the air anymore. It was inside him, inside his skull. That night, he didn't sleep, and he never would again. Whatever this was, it wanted more. First, his daughter in California called. Her 6-year-old daughter kept talking about a girl named Lynn. She comes at night. She cries outside my window. She says a bad man shot her. Then his son in Texas. Same thing. His 8-year-old grandson, a boy who had never heard a word of Vietnamese, suddenly began speaking it clearly fluently, repeating one sentence over and over. Grandpa killed me. Grandpa killed me. Walter's ex-wife, divorced for over 20 years, called him, voice shaking. Walter, there's a little Asian girl. She stands outside my house every night. She just stares and says, tell Uncle Walter to come out. This wasn't just guilt. This wasn't just memory. Lynn was moving, spreading, through blood, through family, through legacy. Whatever Walter brought home from Vietnam, it wasn't just a memory, it was a curse. And now, it had names, it had addresses, it had no limits. I asked Walter one last time about the girl. His eyes were glassy, his skin pale like wax. He looked like a man already halfway gone. Her name was Lynn, he said. She was 8 years old. The day I shot her, I didn't know she was pregnant. I froze. Pregnant? I whispered. She was a child. Walter shook his head, his hands trembling. No, I was wrong. She wasn't 8. She was 15. But she was malnourished, looked like a kid. And she was 3 months along. He paused, swallowed hard, and then said something I'll never forget. When I opened her up, I saw it. The baby. I killed 2 lives with 1 bullet and left them both in the jungle for the animals to tear apart. He didn't cry. He didn't scream. He just sat there, still, silent, like the dead were already with him. That night, Walter sent me a message. Short, just a few lines. She's not alone anymore. The baby inside her.
Why did you shoot me?
It grew up too. Now they both come to see me. They want me to die the way they did. Slow, painful, alone. But I'm not afraid anymore. I deserve this. The next morning, the police arrived at Walter's house. The front door was unlocked, but the house was empty. Not just empty, wrong. In the bedroom, on the wall above the bed, words written in blood, still wet, in Vietnamese. You've paid your price.
We forgave, but Uncle Walter will stay with us forever.
On the floor, they found footprints. 3 sets. 1 large, 2 small. All of them made of blood. All leading toward the window and disappearing into the air. I went back, 1 month later, to the house. The window was still open. The wind still moved through it, soft, cold, like breath. I took a marker and wrote on the glass, "Have you forgiven him?" For a moment, nothing. Then, fog on the glass, a message written in the breath of something not human.
We forgave, but Uncle Walter will stay with us forever.
He has to take care of the baby he killed. Always. I stared, shaking. Then another message appeared. Slow, deliberate. If you tell this story, we'll come for you. The letters vanished, but then new ones took their place. We know where you live. I finished writing this story in December 2023, and since then, every night at 3:15, I hear crying outside my window. Last night, I saw small footprints in the snow and two shadows standing under the streetlight, watching. If you're hearing this, don't read their names aloud. Don't whisper them. Don't even think them, because they're listening, and they're always looking for someone new to tell their story.